Larry a couple minutes to try and catch his breath while we're waiting for some people to get in here. Today is Monday, September 21st, 2020, and the fire smoke, the smoke from the California and Colorado fires has hit Arkansas, and it's cloudy and overcast, and you can smell the smoke in the air from time to time, and particularly when you're up in the hills, you can smell it. And so it's really causing some trouble for Larry to be able to catch his breath. So I don't know how long he can be with us, but he's going to be here as long as possible. And right now we just jumped from 3 to 17. So take it away, sir.
All right, folks. Needless to say, the news over the weekend was the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. With her death comes significant challenges. Number one, and by the way, go ahead, due to the issues of breathing that I'm having, go ahead, if you have questions, please get them in now, please. So in case I have to cut it short, I will at least feel better that I answered as many of you as I could. The issue with Ginsburg is this for Trump. He needs to go ahead and appoint her successor. Now, there's a bunch of to-do going on about there's not that many days left before the election. The Democrats are posturing as, or some of the Republican rhinos, they're posturing, claiming that if he goes ahead and appoints her replacement now, it will hurt the election, especially for Republicans in the House and the Senate. Folks, don't believe any of that. Please don't believe any of that. One of the main reasons, if you look at some of the polling data, both prior to 16 and after 16, leading up to this campaign, one of the primary things of interest to true conservative, moral Christian conservatives, the point of getting Trump to be president, one of the major points, was to be able to place more conservatives on the Supreme Court. So, don't believe any of that junk. Now, there is one development that is troubling, which was over the weekend, Biden outraised Trump almost $100 million this weekend in fundraising. And of course, that is directly tied to Ginsburg. They claim that there's not enough time between now and election for the process to go forward and to have a successor approved. Once again, that's a lie. What Trump is doing, if you look at his short list, he's doing it very smartly. And that the women that he has on his short list, they all recently, were appointed and approved for various positions on the 7th, 11th Circuit Appellate Court.
So we've got one on the 7th and one on the 11th?
Yes. So in other words, my point to that is these people have already been through an extensive approval process, not for the Supreme Court, but for their appointments to the Appellate Court, Federal Appellate Court, Appeals Court. And so that you know, it is nowhere in the Constitution. Nowhere. The Constitution does not call for a number of people to be on the Supreme Court. It doesn't. It never has, and it doesn't today. So what the Democrats are threatening, well, okay, if you go ahead and go through with this, then hold on, because we're going to get control of the Senate or the House or both, and then we're going to increase the number of members of the Supreme Court, which, folks, they can do if they get control. But once again, remember this. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If Trump wins, as I've tried to tell you all since day one, if Trump wins, there is a better than average chance that if he wins for president, it's very hard to believe enough people will turn out to vote him into office as president for a second term, and then turn around and vote for a Democrat in the House or the Senate. Not likely. And you say, but Larry, in other races that has occurred, historically it would seem that Americans like a divided house. In other words, they like it when there's a president of one party and then the other party controls one or the other or both of the other houses. That too is a lie. Never has been, never will be. But especially in this election, normal elections, you have 40-40-20. We talked about it until you're sick of hearing me say it. 40-40-20. 40% would love, let's say in this case, Trump. 40% hate him. And then 20% are undecided. And then whichever side gets the majority of the undecided votes generally wins the election. Now, in that scenario, yes. In that scenario, yes, there is the potential for there to be a president of one party and one or the other houses of Congress being controlled by the other party. Yes, that's possible. Only in a 40-40-20. Well, how is that so? Well, in a 40-40-20, remember, 40% love or hate the candidate, 40% love or hate the other candidate, and then 20% are undecided. Now, I always refer, most of you have heard me do it over and over and over, undecided to don't care. They don't care enough. They don't care enough to know who's running. They don't care enough to know what issues a person runs or does not run off of. They just vote the way they want to the day of the election. And in far too many cases, people go in at the last minute. They see the polls at the last minute showing this candidate or the other ahead, noticeably. And so they don't like to feel like they wasted their vote, so they'll go in and cast their vote for the one that they think is going to win, so they can gather around the water cooler and say, well, I voted for the winner. That's typical. This is not a typical election. There are very few people going to go in this election and fall into the category of don't care or undecided. They're going to be firmly either for or against Trump. This is not an election about Biden. This is not an election about Congress. This is a referendum on whether or not the people that are the true Christian moral conservatives will come out in sufficient numbers to vote Trump in. That's what it's all about. Will they come out in sufficient numbers and vote Trump in? Now, if you look at that personality type, if you look at that demographic profile, you can see, I think, more clearly why I say what I do. They're not going to go in and vote for Trump because that's what they're dedicated to do. They are voting for Trump. They like what he's done as president. They like the way he's kept his word as president. They're not going to go in and vote for a Democrat for one of the other houses. They're just not going to do it. So if we can get sufficient number of our side to go out and vote November 3rd to put Trump back in, there is a better than average chance, way better than average chance, so says I, that both houses will stay Republican. Conversely, if more people show up and vote out Trump, you can bet they're not going to vote out Trump and then turn around and vote to put Republicans back into the House or the Senate or both. They're not going to do it. That's why I have said very carefully to you over and over and over that this is probably one of the most important elections, no, it is the most important election this nation has ever had. And I'm talking about going back to the days of the Civil War era. We are a nation divided. You can take many, if you want to kind of go through a quick history lesson, go back and dig up some of the election speeches and writings during pre-Civil War days. And it will scare you at how close what's being said today was being said back then. We were a nation divided. We're in the process of getting even more divided, just as we are today. Now, before we went home, Mary Ellen told me of an interesting event. Mike Huckabee was on the couch with whatever they call it thing on Fox, where they have people on the couch, 4 women and 1 guy.
Is it outnumbered?
Outnumbered, yes.
Yeah.
And apparently, Huckabee was talking about, in Portland and some of the other places, one of the reasons he felt that many of the people are not being prosecuted is because of the very thing we talked about here for months. The fact that George Soros went around and paid prosecutors to get elected. I mean, he financed prosecutors. Well, now you're seeing the benefit of that. Not only can they prosecute whomever they choose, but they can also drag or not prosecute at all people that they don't want to prosecute. Do not doubt that all of these riots, all of these protests, all of this increased amount of killing and shooting and cutting police departments, etc., have no doubt about it. It's all a part of the same movement. It truly is. You're seeing George Soros and his ilk, you're seeing them make the move to take over this country. This is the election they plan to do it with. And they're giving it everything they've got. Now, I hear quite too often, I'm afraid, people talking about Joe Biden. Surely people are joking. I mean, surely the DNC's joking. Joe Biden, when he can't even remember where he's at half the time, it makes no sense. Joe Biden should not be able to win dog catcher, much less president of the United States. Well, this connects back to what Mary Ellen, you and I have talked about on this program for months, if not years now. It's not about Joe Biden. Howdy Doody could run against Donald Trump. This is about the people that hate Trump so that they would vote for Howdy Doody. This is about people that hate Trump so that they would vote for a mental midget. Anybody other than Trump. So you see, Joe Biden's actually in a perfect seat. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter how bad he messes up. It doesn't matter how good he does. It really doesn't matter. The people that are going to come out to vote and that would vote for Joe Biden, guess what? They're the people that are going to eat nails and come out and try to defeat Donald Trump. They'll worry about who they actually elected after it's over and Donald Trump is lost if he does. They'll worry then about who got it, thinking that that's nothing compared to where we are if Trump gets reelected. Now, folks, I can't tell you enough. I just can't. They're blaming Trump for this virus. It's rapidly approaching 200,000. I think we're at 199,000 some odd deaths. They're actually blaming Trump for the virus. You've actually got Joe Biden coming out and saying that it's all Trump's fault because he did not do this or he did not do that soon enough to where it would have made a difference. When the records clearly show Trump was well ahead of Biden. And by the time Biden figured out we need to close the borders, by the time Biden figured out we needed to shut down all the things that Trump shut down, it was well a month to 6 weeks after President Trump had already made those decisions and called it. Now, maybe it is a stretch. Maybe it is a stretch when Donald Trump says that had he not have done what he did when he did it, millions of more Americans could have lost their lives. I don't know if that millions more would apply. Certainly thousands more, certainly tens of thousands more. I could go along with that. I just don't know that you can quantify millions. But that's not the point. The point is every life is precious. And thank God Trump did what he did when he did. Because whatever number, when this all gets said and done, whatever the number of people that die turns out to be, whatever that number turns out to be, you can bet there is some number that did not die because of the swift action President Trump took. And before anybody goes and blames President Trump about whether he did something soon enough, fast enough, right enough, etc., before you go dealing with that issue, you've got to remember President Trump, the CDC, everybody in America, all of these brainiac scientists, doctors, etc., all of them were faced with the same problem Trump was. We've never met a virus like this. So nobody could predict what to do because nobody's ever had to deal with it. Someday soon, after the election, I believe President Trump will be more free to come out and tell the truth. And the truth is, I know it. The truth is, I know he knows it. Because we have had our first biological attack on this nation. China. China attacked us and the rest of the free world just as sure as I'm sitting here trying to breathe. They did. They unleashed a bug that was not found accidentally. It was created. Do you hear me? It was created. That whenever, let me qualify a chemical weapon versus a biological phenomenon. A chemical weapon or biological weapon is one that is created in a laboratory. It was not discovered on the east end of the furthest point of Africa where monkeys actually caught it and it started spreading. It's nothing like that. There's no natural occurrence to this thing. It was created in a laboratory. And we know what laboratory it was created in. Why? And we also know that that laboratory in Wuhan, China, specializes in what? Developing new technologies having to do biological and chemical weaponry. Think about it. So you see, it's not really fair to chastise Trump, even though he's president. And yes, the buck stops here. So even though he may not have known exactly what to do, I understand that. But I also understand, guess what? It happened during his watch. So in that regard, he is accountable. Maybe not responsible, but he's certainly accountable for what happened during the virus and subsequently will happen. He will be held accountable, and I feel sorry for him because he had nothing he could do about it. When you got the leading scientists in the world left all scratching their heads wondering, he took action. He did take action. And he took the only action any responsible human being would take, which would be to take that which he could glean from his different scientists, from the CDC, from everybody, professionals that he could get his hands on, kind of get a consensus of what they were saying to him. And then unfortunately he had to make the call. He had to do something based off the information he was given at the time. We now know some of that information was wrong. But he did what he could do. But I know it's frustrating to y'all. Because as you go and talk to various sundry people, and people blame this virus on Trump, I know it's incredibly hard to just swallow and go, oh, I know it is. I face it every day. But just because something's hard to believe, just because something is incredible to believe, doesn't mean it's not true. So, here you go. You've got Biden, who falls in the category of anybody other than Trump. So score one for Biden there. When you start dealing with what Trump did or did not do, and what most would refer to possibly his untimely seizing the situation and sizing it up and doing something. Remember, just what I told you. He'd never faced this before. No one had ever faced this before. So it's hard to blame him for something that even the most sophisticated scientists in this nation, which therefore means in the world, didn't know what to do with. We're just now starting to get a handle on it. Now we hear this weekend that, guess what? The 6 feet separation of people, 6 feet, turned out that's not enough. Then we find out this weekend that the cloth mask may not be enough. So there's still much to learn about this disease. It's not gone. Now, some of the rates of increase have slowed down. Yes, they have. But I don't know that it was as much something somebody did more than it was just something that has occurred naturally. We don't know, for example, what is the shelf life for this virus. What is the shelf life? Does it just hang around forever? Does it have a fuse after so long a period it goes away? We don't know. It's deadly. It's deadly. And when I say Trump may be free, if reelected, to spread the word of the truth about it being an attack from China, you'll notice I use the word may be able. Didn't say he would be able, I said he may be able. Why do I say that? Think about it, guys. Let's say tomorrow, Donald Trump had let's put it in your hands. Let's say tomorrow, in your hands, you have proof that this virus was a planned operational attack using bioterrorism against America and the rest of the world. Would you want to tell the American people that? Now, before you go, yeah, I would. Well, you got to think of the ramifications if you're president. You go telling the world that yes, it was China, or you go telling Americans yes, it was China, a planned operational attack using bioterrorism. You know what the American people are going to say? Now, what are you going to do, President Trump? Or President Biden, or President whomever? What are you going to do about it? What do we do? What can we do? Thanks to Bill Clinton, thanks to Daddy Bush, Baby Bush, Obama, Biden, Clinton, thanks to all those guys that opened us up to this new world, this global economy. Guess what? It's got ramifications as well. Ramifications. I mean, we're in hot to China. The good news is Trump, being the businessman that he is, he's able to deal with it on a level that very few, if any, of our other politicians would be able to cope with it. You know, he has the business acumen, he has the global acumen to weigh out things that others would not. Number one, President Trump's not going to be held hostage by China ever. So that gives us a leg up. it still does not answer the question. What do you do? Do we declare war on China? You want us to get into a global world war? Because that's where it's leading. Or would it not be better to come up with some subversive plan, kind of hit them back with something that we have with plausible deniability? They'll know we did it. We'll know we did it. But just as long as nobody can absolutely prove we did it, they're left with the same situation we are. Somebody's going to pay. That's a fact. Somebody is going to pay. But dear God, I hope that someone that's going to pay is not us. We paid enough. And if President Trump is defeated, we're going to keep paying. And we're going to pay more, and we're going to pay more, and we're going to pay more. We must stop the Democrats, the communists. We've got to stop them from taking over our country. We've got to. Kind of a weird report, I know.
No, it's realistic. The one concern that a lot of people have had in the chat, Larry, is the fact that the CDC reported that the number was not 150, 160, 180,000, but only less than 10,000 that actually died just from COVID. And all the other people who died being elderly had all these other circumstances that probably was the real cause of death, and they died with COVID, not from COVID.
You know, Mary Ellen, that's the other part of it. Like me, we're fighting desperately to keep me, if there's any way at all, to keep me from getting it, because if I get it, with the complications of my lungs and everything else, I'm toast. I'm toast. Now, since I'm toast, would that be because of the virus, or would it be because of the underlying crampiness of my lungs? Well, the way they're recording it now, I would have died of the disease. So we don't know. CDC does not know how many people of the 200,000 were in the hospital with a manifestation of the flu or some other lung cancer, some other lung issue. We don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This disease is so new. No one's dealt with it before. There are more questions, believe it or not. We still have more questions today than we have answers. And the problem is we don't even have any place to go with confidence to get the answers. You know, we've always been able to say, well, we're America. We got the best scientists on earth. We got the greatest this. Well, no. Can't say that now. Not about this. We're in this together. We're in it together. And if we're going to come out of it, we're going to come out of it together. And if we're going to come out of it, we've got to all realize step one in coming out of this horrific situation we're in with the disease, we've got to re-elect Trump. We've got to. If we expect to come out of it, if we expect our economy to ever get back on track and get back in the growth that it was going through before this hit, step one, we've got to elect Trump. got to re-elect Trump. And every day that something else comes up that distracts from our number one mission, number one goal, re-elect Trump. Just like with the death of what's your name on the Supreme Court. That's a distraction. And there will be a certain number of people that are going to come out and vote against Trump because of her death. That's right. I don't know that we got that many people that are going to come out and vote for Trump because of her death. But I do know there's going to be a lot of them come out and vote against him because of her death. How do I know that? I know that from the big influx of cash that they got in this weekend, $100 million campaign contributions. Folks, that's a lot of money. A lot of money at this time in the election cycle. I got a news flash for you. $100 million didn't come in to elect Joe Biden president. No, ma'am, did not. That $100 million came in to stop Trump from picking another member of the Supreme Court.
So why do they need to be so worried about this pick if they're just planning on winning and just adding more people to the Supreme Court to balance, in their mind, balance it out?
Well, because they can't be guaranteed of that. They'll have to get control of both houses of Congress to be able to get enough votes to change the number of members of the Supreme Court. And then what does that number turn out to be? You know, you could have a year, almost 2 years of just purity debate, first off, to determine how many there needs to be or what would be a good number. And then they got to vote on whatever that number they determine to be. They got to vote to see if they can get the votes to pass it. It's not a simple thing. It won't just come and go.
Okay.
And once again, do not be deceived when you see Chuck Schumer, when you see Nancy Pelosi. You know, do not be confused. I saw just a clip just a minute ago of Pelosi say, well, you know, we've got more arrows in our quiver, and we're just not going to tell you what they are. But there's stuff we can do. Yeah, they're just trying to incite their people to come out and vote and convincing them that there's stuff they can do, when in fact and indeed, I don't know that they've got that many things they can do. But I do know this, they know this. If Trump wins a second term, you just took about 90% of the arrows in their quiver and threw them right out the door.
Somebody asked if that $100 million might have come from the money given to BLM and Antifa. You know, from the money Obama gave to Iran.
Yeah, I doubt it. And that's truly the way it's come in. That's truly a sign of just panic contributions. That's just a case, as I read it, as I think any professional will do, as you look at a panic contribution, you're seeing an event driving panic, making people come out in droves and throw money into the race. They think the money they're throwing in will protect the choice of the Supreme Court. They're wrong. The choice for the Supreme Court will be made by President Trump. It will be confirmed by the Republicans in the Senate, and it'll be over with come election day. Nothing they can do to stop that. Nothing.
And Pelosi's saying there's something she can do. She's in the House, not the Senate. So, I mean, she can put she can put pressure on people, but
let me tell you, I'm getting about as tired as I know McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate are getting. You know, there's never been a time when a Speaker of the House runs around dictating what the Senate will or will not do. I can't tell you another time in modern history where this has been allowed to go on. Normally, when the Speaker of the House oversteps their bounds and starts dealing with the Senate and what the Senate can or must do, historically they're shut down pretty quickly.
so are they going to try to impeach Trump to block this SCOTUS confirmation?
No. They can't even, and they know it, and you know it, and I know it, and they know we know it. They can't even start today with any kind of impeachment process on Trump that would anywhere near come to resolution before the election. No way.
But
I tell you, they don't have that many options. They can tell you they do, but they don't. Option number one for the Democrats is the same technically as ours. Either they defeat Trump, which gives them some options, or they lose to Trump and they're out of options.
So is there a new virus coming this fall?
There will be.
Yeah.
Now, I do not believe. Hold on. I had to try to change positions in the chair. I do not believe there is another variation of the virus coming, like a second wave this fall. I just know from the people that I deal with, and they are the people that must deal with it, that there is extreme concern about China having a two-punch. And this was something, it's another variation.
Okay. Do you think so? Do you think this will end up in another lockdown?
Huh?
Will it end up in another lockdown? Do you think?
Don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Why can't I know the answer to this one. Why can't Pelosi, Schumer, Nadler, Schiff, and Swalwell be impeached? Because it's up to their constituents to recall them, and they voted for
They
them.
have to be dealt with through recall or through ethics.
Yeah.
Through an ethics violation.
The Democrats seem to have confessed that they're responsible for the violence because they're saying that more violence is coming. Is there a way to stop them?
Well, not really. As long as the Democratic controlled cities, counties, states block President Trump from interceding with federal troops or with federal operations, there's nothing he can do. President Trump cannot go into Portland, Oregon, for example, bring in his reserve and shut it down, although he could shut it down overnight. He can't do it unless he's invited. You say, well, yeah, but that's crazy. No, it's not. If he could do that, then we've already lost. You know, folks, what we're fighting for, I hope, all of us, we're fighting to maintain our way of life, our Constitution. And for us to trample it is no better than them. Because remember, if we can trample it, eventually they'll get to a situation where they can trample it and they'll have precedent.
Do you think the mask mandate will ever end?
What?
Will the mask mandate ever end?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. You know,
I don't think anybody knows. I don't think anybody can prove with sufficient data, scientific data. I don't think anybody can prove as yet that this whole concept of the mask and stuff is actually having that big of an improvement. Just don't know. And don't be confused when it looks like, you know, we've discovered 6 million new cases of the virus. That's connected to our ability to test more. And if we're not testing anybody, then guess what? The number of cases, new cases, don't show up. You're not testing anybody, so therefore they can't show up. Don't be deceived.
okay.
The reason we're catching more people that are testing positive for the virus is because we are increasing our capacity to test.
Okay, somebody asked about Pelosi being able to stop the replacement. We talked about that already. So that they were asking about, oh shoot, do you think there are going to be food shortages?
There'll have to be.
You say
At some point this winter, there'll have to be, it'll have to start showing up food shortages.
Okay. Does Mitch?
It's not me wanting it. It's not me trying to whatever. I mean, I'm just saying it just is what it is.
Yeah. Does Mitch McConnell have the votes
For what?
to approve the Supreme Court appointee?
He's got it unless one other person flips on him.
Because right now it's what? Right now it's 50-50 or right now it's 51-49?
51-49.
Okay. All right.
But, you know, that's considering at least at this point that, anyway, I don't know.
And if they go 50-50, does that brings Pence into tiebreak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brenny, we just answered the thing about the impeachment. He said there isn't time to do that. Nancy.
All right, Mary Ellen, you're gonna have to answer some people's questions. I want to put it on mute. I'm about to throw up, so
okay,
just keep talking. I'm listening.
All right. One person asked if a military coup is possible. You have said that you said July, before Trump even got the nomination, you said that they would try to keep him out. And very, very soon after he got the nomination, you were already talking in 2016, late summer, very early fall, you were talking about a coup had already begun against Trump. They hated him because he was not one of them. And so they were going to do everything they could to get him out. And they weren't going to stop until they succeeded. And you talked about a military coup being a hard coup. And what we had going on was a soft coup because they were using the media to push their ideas forward. And we have watched the FISA court, what FISA did, what the FISA, what that allowed them to do, that Obama, Brennan, Clapper, etc., Comey were all involved in spying on the Trump campaign, which is illegal. And they did it under false pretenses. What they used to base their FISA application on was false information, and Rod Rosenstein himself at the DOJ signed off on those FISA applications. And then we had, the Mueller's investigation, we had the impeachment. I mean, they've just come up with one excuse after another to distract the public and create the lies that they have told over and over and over again against Trump. So this whole coup has been orchestrated from the very beginning. We know that Obama replaced and got rid of a lot of the good generals at the top of the military branches. And so the ones that were left in were ones that were very much aligned with Obama. We know that Obama is working very hard behind the scenes, as no other prior president has ever done once they've left office. The others leave and go about their business. So Obama's working behind the scenes, and he certainly knows the people in the military that he placed there that supported him. And so whether this will turn into a hot coup or not, I mean, that's certainly a risk. Larry told me this weekend we are at very high risk of violence breaking out everywhere. And you've got to be prepared.
I don't believe you're going to see the coup we're in the middle of. Remember, the delineation is a soft coup is when they use the media, the press, and then what's referred to as a normal or hot coup is when you see tanks pulling up around the Capitol and forcing, one bunch out of power. You're not going to see that here. The military is not going to turn on President Trump, and they're certainly not going to turn on the American people. It's not going to happen. So they'll have to go forward, pushing every button, every switch, everything they can to accomplish this takeover transition done in the context of a soft coup. They're going to have to. They've got to. Now, included in that bunch of things they can do is we're still coming up on election November the 3rd, and God only knows the cheating and election fraud that'll be going on during that period of time. So, I mean, we've still got plenty of things we've got to worry about. Now, if Trump wins, as I have tried to tell y'all, if he wins a second term, then everybody better pucker up and tighten up, and his security better double and triple up. Because at that point, he's in for 4 more years, and they can't allow it. So that's when I think we have to be seriously concerned with opposition trying to kill him. And I don't like to talk about that on the air. And, it's just not something you want to talk about, but it's something we can not refuse to talk about. It's obviously out there as a possibility. But they'll have to get rid of him. They cannot stand. The system cannot stand 4 more years of Donald Trump. It just can't. He brings too many good things to the nation. He has already proven that he can benefit the people of this country in ways no other president has ever done. And they can't allow that. That will be the end of the demise of what's known as a swamp. One of 2 things will happen in his next 4 years. The swamp will be dissipated, or he'll be gone. But before it gets to that extreme, they're going to do everything they can to get rid of him in the election.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I have to go? I'm really getting sick.
No, that's it. That's all I see right now. That I did see that Barr has said that New York City, Seattle, and Portland have violated what they are supposed to do, and therefore, I think the conclusion was that the funding can be withdrawn from them.
Yes, it can. This goes back to what's his name from Alabama, who was the first attorney general. Uh, there is all of these attached monies that go to the cities and the states and whatever law enforcement. But in all of those sub-S and all of those S-13 funding sources, there are restrictions. And the cities and the states have to comply with the rules. And that means they have to honor their part of the contract, and they have to do their part, just like the federal government has to do his, and as far as trying to tell everybody, Oregon and all those people, they're already out of compliance, so they can cut the funding off tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
But bars being wise, we've already seen the net effect in a few of the communities where they have cut back law enforcement. Be careful that you don't cut off your nose to spite your face.
Yep. All right, Larry. Thank you. It's been, I can't believe you went an hour given your condition.
Well, now listen, folks, I need your help desperately today. There has virtually been nothing come in. And this stuff is just accumulating. Please, if you're out there, won't you help, please? I'm trying to keep you posted on things nobody else will tell you, on things that others could tell you but won't. And I'm, above all else, trying to do my part in saving this country.
Yeah, he really is, folks. With 102 here, 102 of us here, please do what you can. Somebody step up and do something. Larry, I got it, Larry.
Please, now, do it fast. Please, now.
He needs some money coming in instantly. And the fastest way to get money to him is to go through PayPal. I know some people can't and don't. So if you can't do PayPal, you need to text me. But Larry's PayPal account is nicholslive@aol.com. You can go to the website, nicholslive.com, and see a couple alternatives. So if you text me, I can give you some other ways to do what needs to be done. But the fastest way is if you go to PayPal, nicholslive@aol.com is his account. And Robert King, I need you to text me and let me know if you want to be in the drawing for this wreath that I made. I need to know if you want your name thrown in the hat for that, for what you sent. And I've got most of the t-shirts packed up right now to go to the post office for those of you that are waiting for them. Yeah, thank you, Gloria. If somebody can match what she's putting in, please do. I know every $5 helps, so if we can all do that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, please do it and do it fast. My fever's backing up, so I gotta get off. But,
okay, Larry.
Guys, it's critical. I'm gonna hang in somehow until November the 3rd. Somehow, I hope. I'm trying.
Guys, you won't.
But as Mary Ellen can tell you, some days it's harder to do that than others. Yeah,
and he's in one of those tough days today. Have 275 generals endorsed Trump?
Don't know.
Okay. 2 retired military guys wrote a letter to McMaster and have 6 scenarios for removing Trump by force.
That ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
That will not happen. There's no mechanism by which, in a peaceful scenario, that can happen. So then the only other thing that could happen would be for them to lead, a good size military coup And they just don't have the strength of the power. Trump's just too solid with the military. He's done too much for them.
Yeah.
Military's not going to turn on Donald Trump.
Good. That's encouraging to hear. All right, Larry. Folks, do whatever you can, please. I can hear you struggling to breathe. You need to get off, okay?
Thank you all. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, we got up to 102, by the way.
Okay, guys.
All right, thank you. Bye. Folks, he had to get an inhaler today, and so he even needs money to cover that inhaler. I don't know who paid for it, but he needs to pay him back for it. So thank you, Gloria. If anybody can match that $5, sorry, I gotta get this. I was listening to something before we started, and come on down. There we go. Can't even get it to mute. I had a couple more things to add. Somebody mentioned the White House siege. That was pretty interesting. The White House siege was scheduled to start on last Thursday, and they showed up at Lafayette Park to start their thing, and they were turned away because there was an intercessory prayer group who beat them to get permission to be at Lafayette Square or Lafayette Park starting last Thursday and continuing until Election Day. So they were completely shut down. What an answer to prayer. And see, that is what needs to happen is Christian people have got to get involved. We can't just sit back and say that, that God's got this. Remember, Ephesians 6 says, put on the whole armor of God, but it says, stand your ground, but do everything you can first and then stand your ground. That really is what it says. So thank you, Robert. I heard two very interesting things today or this weekend posted on Facebook after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. One is a quote that said, frankly, I had thought at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations we don't want to have too many of. Now, who do you think they're talking about? You don't need to answer. That's just something that I wanted to throw out there. But, she is claiming there are populations in our country that we don't want to have too many of. I mean, we know what Margaret Sanger's point was with Planned Parenthood, and one of the heads of the board of Planned Parenthood was Bill Gates' dad. So, we've had this. It is not racist to point out the fact that these people have been extremely racist, and what she has done can't be forgotten. Another thing that somebody put up on Facebook, several people have been sharing it. Hitler condoned the murder of 6 million. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has condoned the murder of 60 million, not just 6 million, but 60 million through abortion with what she condoned. And then the question was asked, did you mourn Hitler's death? So, I'm grateful that she can't. I'm grateful that she can't support that anymore. And, please be in prayer. Do what you can. Make your voice heard wherever possible. We really have an issue with the down ballot. It's really important. We have to get our people out to vote. We can't say that God's got this so we don't have to participate. No matter how dangerous it is, we have got to participate in this election. This is Deuteronomy 30. I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life. God told us to choose life so that we may live. Thank you, Rana. Choose life so we may live. And if Trump doesn't win and they come against, remember what Harris has promised. If you were a Trump supporter or if you're a Christian, we're coming for you. So, even Stalin with the number he was responsible for the death of 20 million in Russia and Eastern Europe. But that's nothing compared to the number of people who have died. And I say people, yes, people who have died through abortion. You know, humanity starts at conception because whatever is growing is not some other critter. So, anyhow, folks, do whatever you can. I appreciate so much how deeply you have dug. And if anybody wants to have their name in the hat for this wreath, let me know. Make sure you text me so I get your name in here. We're going to draw it in another week or so. Have the drawing. So I've got, it's going to cost about $50 to get this to you. So between mailing and what it cost me to make it. So, we really need to get some funding going to make it worth my putting out that kind of money as a gift to you guys rather than just, saving the shipping and giving it to Larry. So anyhow, or his wife. Folks, do what you can. And that's it. We've gone over time. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Patty. Thank you so much. Appreciate what you've done. If you want your name in the drawing, you got to make sure I know how much you gave. Make sure it's at least 25 to get entered. So thank you and God bless you. We will be back. Tomorrow is Jason. There is no way in Larry's current state that he can do Jason and us. So we're skipping us tomorrow. We will be back on Wednesday. And I have seen Larry and I'm watching him chunk down. And, if I don't hear from him for a day, I start to get pretty freaked out because I don't know what's going on. And it's been interesting because God keeps saying, praise me. I'm doing something. You got to trust me. Just give me praise and say thanks for what I'm doing because God's in charge. So watching Larry hang on is a pretty remarkable thing, folks. God bless you all, and we'll talk on Wednesday.